Hey, I'm Quincy and I'm a radio personality, but just like you, I'm always wanting to make better health choices for myself and of course for my family. Now that's why I've teamed up with my friend Dr. Dean Tyndall and the fine folks of New Life Naturopathic, the creators of new-lifeweightloss.com, to bring you a podcast focused on giving you the information you need to make the best health decisions for you and your family. Now, that's going to be without sway from what mainstream medicine has become. Now, this podcast, Pursuit of New Life, we're going to release one each Friday. And we're going to focus on debunking the mainstream medicine myths now associated with naturopathic, holistic medicine, while giving you clear insight into ways you can make your health a lifestyle and not a jump from fad diet to fad diet. Experts in the fields of biochemistry, chiropractic, physiology, women's health, and much more will weigh in on a range of topics, all designed to open your eyes, expand your knowledge, and bring you to new life. Now be sure to subscribe to Pursuit of New Life on all the podcast platforms, and also follow us on YouTube at newlifenaturopathic.com, and be joining us every Friday for Pursuit of New Life.
Welcome into another episode of Pursuit of New Life. We're thankful that you're on the journey with us, a holistic and balanced journey we learned last week. Even though we talk about one topic at a time, we do need you to realize there's a lot more to it than that. So when we talk about vitamin D like we did last week, it's not just vitamin D, it's a lot of other things. And so that's why we do a lot of different episodes. So we encourage you to subscribe so you know when they come out every Friday, and you can check it out along with us on your favorite podcast platform, and that is Pursuit of New Life. And then on YouTube, it is Pursuit of New Life through the New Life Naturopathic YouTube channel. So you want to make sure you checking that out on YouTube if you want to see all the wonderful things that we share. But if you just have time to listen, podcast is the way to go. And we encourage you to share with your friends as well. So we did talk about vitamin D last week. We've talked about all kinds of great things in the last couple of weeks. We talked about sugar being poison. I'm sure that rattled a few cages. We're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the cause is the cure. So I'm sure that people are already spinning the wheels as I say that statement. And it's an intriguing thing to say, but we talk about sick care versus health care all the time. And it kind of breaks down to that, Dr. Tyndall.
That does. Basically, when we first started, discussing like ideas, stuff, Julie goes, "Hey, let's do one that causes a cure." I was like, "Oh yeah." And of course, and we get talking about it. But, a lot of people, when I first said this to Quincy, he was like, "What do you mean by that?" I said,
I definitely had to dig a little bit.
Yeah, he had to dig on that. Basically what it is it's the approach that you take on helping your patients and people get healthier again. It's a kind of a difference between how allopathic or traditional medicine looks at your illness and disease and how they address it versus how we address it via as a naturopathic or a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the gist of it is, and there's a little graphic we can kind of show up here. With you have traditional medicine, what happens, and a lot of people kind of think this way too. I'm healthy, and then all of a sudden, one moment later, I'm sick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and that's not how it actually works. But that's how everybody wants to think of it. It's like I'm healthy. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sick, and now I want to do intervention. And usually when you're in this red, it's radical interventions, drugs, surgery, pretty crazy stuff, emergency room visits. Like with us, as chiropractors, we see people like, "Oh, doc, I've been like this for 6 months and now I can't move at all. And I need some radical intervention. Now you have to do all this stuff. Of course, they've done a lot of damage." And how functional medicine or holistic medicine or naturopathic medicine, all the things kind of, you're in a state. What we're trying to do is promote a state of health. So again, eating healthy, again, our website, exercising, having good mental health, like relaxation, yoga, sleeping, stress management, all this other stuff. And what happens with a person as they get away from doing healthy activities, they start to become unhealthy and they get into this, what we call functional range, or actually should say more dysfunctional range. What happens, you start to develop, your physiology starts to break down. And what happens, you start to develop symptoms. Okay. And these symptoms kind of gradually get worse, and they get worse, and they gradually get worse, because what happens? We keep ignoring them. They'll go away. Or what happens? We start searching, and we don't want to look at the cause of my problem. We want to start searching for outside fixes to our issues. And we keep getting sick and sick. And this yellow range, you can be in here for, a couple hours to years. Okay. And then, of course, then you get into the sick range where you're full blown, everything's going wrong, and you're breaking down, and you're at the doctor's office, and then again, you're starting to get into more radical things to do with a person to try to get them out of this thing, because after the sick stage is death stage. And that's what you're trying to prevent with people.
Yeah. And, we've talked about in other episodes, dis-ease, as you get toward that stage and what should be done. Miriam, you've in other episodes been very transparent about coming through some things and using programs that Dr. Tyndall encourages and his advice to get on the right supplements and get yourself in a certain stage. Can you talk a little bit from a perspective of the steps it takes to make sure you're not going just from healthy to sick? Like there's a process that's included in when you get to the sick stage, but there's also a process in coming back from being sick if you prolong that too long.
Yes, absolutely. So I think this can definitely be tied back to one of the episodes we did on prevention and preventative health, which I think is such an important and underestimated form of medicine and health. And unfortunately, that's kind of the part that's looked through much of the time in traditional medicine is, with traditional, and just kind of the approach of how we look at health from a traditional aspect in modern medicine is that we have a sickness or a disease, and we have all these symptoms that come with it, and we are now trying to manage the symptoms instead of getting to the root of the problem, or the, all of the problems, usually they're plural, that led to that problem. And so what happens is a lot of the more important aspects of prevention are skipped. And so, what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these diseases and ailments could have been prevented in the first place. And so what we focus on is, either one, preventing, or if you already have the problem, how we can reverse it or deal with it. And so, stress management, diet, exercise, even sexual health, which is also important, physical and mental health, sleep, all of these aspects, all these factors that contribute to overall health and well-being, all of those are equally important in their own ways. And so I know that it is very difficult, especially in the modern era that we live in, to know exactly how to take care of ourselves. And unfortunately, we have given a lot of weight and responsibility into these, into medical doctors and physicians, and, kind of put all of our faith in, oh, these people are professionals. They know everything that they're talking about. They went to school. I'm just going to put all my trust in my health and my life in them, and I'm just going to trust, what they do. And unfortunately, that is kind of how it has become. And so preventative medicine is very important, especially in this day and age. And I think people are more and more realizing that they can put so much more control into their own health and in their lives than before. And so I think once that mentality changes, once the approach to sickness and health and reversing a lot of these, factors that contributed to sickness, either preventing them or reversing them, once we have a good grasp on that and, our own function and in our own health is when we have the power to change it. And so I think, and I know I'm speaking very generally and generically right now, but that's just because there are there's so much.
So many layers. Yeah.
So many different layers.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm thinking about right now that I know that most people probably are in the mind frame of while we're having this conversation of preventative is the cost. And I think the insurance game has obviously impacted the way people decide on how they get something looked at, because you have to be a certain level of sick before you can have insurance pay for something. Or because it doesn't always pay for preventative care. Dr. Stuber, what do you see as some of the factors that keep people from getting to the root problem sooner? Because it does come back to preventative, like Miriam said.
The first thing is programming. It's programmed like, oh my goodness, people stress over insurance. They pay so much money for insurance. They pay to be sick. As I've said before, it's like the food industry creates the problem and the pharmaceutical industry tries to control it, tries to manage it. I think that's all people know. All they know is, okay, I go to the doctor, I take my kids to the doctor, they get checked, they do this, and they have complete faith that that's just what they do.
Well, it's also what we do, that we go until we can't, instead of finding that middle ground that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and part of the reason I mentioned to Dr. Tyndall we need to do podcasts on the causes of the cure is to explain to people how we are different and what is important. And what medical doctors do, the medical institution, they treat the what of the problem. What is going on? Okay, you have this problem, this symptom, so we're going to treat you with this medicine and we're going to manage that disease. And so as you go on, you need more and more medicine, and this medicine creates this side effect, so you got to take that medicine, and pretty soon you have all of these pharmaceuticals and none of them work and you're completely toxic. So I want to stress that, to think about it, to raise your awareness that the body does not have to live in a state of sickness. You do not have to feel terrible all the time. You do not have to succumb to it's a hamster wheel of just chasing your tail of, oh, I'm sick, now I'm sick, oh, I got to have medicine. And, if you do get sick, good luck getting into the doctor. So what we do is we look at the how and the why of things, meaning, how does the body function? What is happening on the inside that's creating the problems on the outside? And we live in a culture that it's the outside that matters. And that's what people treat, the outside. And you have to get to the inside. Where is the dysfunction? So we look at things. Our job is to listen to the patient, observe the patient, and then we use our experience and we run diagnostic tests. We use our experience and our education to say, okay, this is the cause of the problem. Maybe it's your liver, or maybe biochemically something's not working right. So how can we help your body heal? How can we work on that organ, or work on that chemical reaction, or work on your nervous system to create health? And health is about proper function. When you're healthy, sometimes you might have symptoms such as a fever or such as pain, but it's temporary. It's not a permanent thing. People that seek our help, for example, people with diabetes, when they come here, obviously we focus on the pancreas, but we look at other things that could be happening that cause the pancreas to not function. And I want to, again, express to people that you do not have to live in sickness. What you need to do is focus on the cause. Education, knowledge is power. What we do is we educate and we treat people so that they understand how the body works. And when you do that, people have the power. They're empowered to get healthy and be healthy and understand what health is. And it's not so much about how you feel as how you are.
It's how you function.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's just hard for you to be aware. I always say, when you're in a problem, you can't solve a problem with the energy that created it. So it's hard to treat yourself. You need someone else. You need an expert to help you and to monitor things. As you get educated and you do the right things, the body will heal. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter in what condition you are now. You can be better and you can maintain your health. And that is much cheaper than being sick. Because what's happening with the whole regimen of how we're programmed is medical insurances are going up, the price of them, the deductibles are going up, your out-of-pocket expenses going up, and the doctor's visits and the co-pays are going up. And you can't afford to be sick, so you need to take care of yourself in the first place.
Well, it's a catch-22 because you can't afford to be sick, but then you can't afford a lot of times the preventative care. You don't feel like you can because we've been conditioned to say, well, you only need to come to a doctor when X, Y, and Z happens.
So that's why when you're educated, again, we teach people, and when we teach people, like with the eating program, nutrition is the number one thing for your body to heal. It's not expensive. It's $39 a month, or it's $99 for 3 months. And it's a program that teaches you the foundation of health. Okay? And then if you have additional questions or issues, the doctors, Miriam, we were all available. Dr. Tyndall, were available to help you. And we look at things chemically and functionally. We do functional medicine. We have all kinds of things. But the big thing we do is educate. Okay, this is happening. Okay, how is it happening? Why is it happening? And then we're going to address the why. We're not going to address the what, and that's just how it should be done. It's the only thing to me that makes sense. It's cheaper in the long run, far cheaper to take care of yourself than to be chronically sick. Dr. Tyndall has said it many times, medical doctors are great for emergency care. You're in a car accident, you break a bone, something that needs immediate attention, you cut yourself. But as far as overall health care, it's not health care. It's be sick and let us keep you sick. And it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. The other thing people don't realize, okay, you got insurance that pays for everything, but time is money. So, if you have to take 2 hours off work to go to the medical doctor, wait, and then they send you for another test and another test and another test, and they never even get to the problem, and they don't communicate with each other, how is that cheap? I don't understand the thought process. Versus coming to the doctor, learning what's wrong with you, address the problem so the body will heal. And that's what we do.
Well, and you're addressing the root of it, as we're talking about here. And Dr. Tyndall, there's a lot of things that people deal with that there are some root causes that have to be discovered. And if somebody's watching on the New Life Naturopathic YouTube channel right now, you're seeing this. There's a ton of things listed here in this tree graphic, and then showing some things down here at the root that can be causing some of these things. And I know almost everybody can raise their hand when you talk about chronic fatigue, poor sleep, some of these things that are listed. And so I'll ask you the same way I asked Dr. Stuber, what do you think is one of another barrier for people really taking a look at preventative care and looking at the cause instead of just all of a sudden being sick and fix me with a magic potion, powder, or pill, as you say all the time?
Their number one barrier is themselves. And that's
the no sugar answer right there.
That's the biggest barrier that we have. As I was listening to Dr. Stuber talk about education and stuff, and I started kind of giggling a little bit to myself, because I'm thinking to myself, most of the patients, probably 80 or 90% of the patients, when we talk to them about educating, like, this is what you are doing to yourself. Okay. This is the responsibilities that you have to take to make yourself healthy again. And, they look at us like a deer caught in the headlights. They don't want to hear.
I did this. Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't want to hear that aspect of it. And so they're like, well, I want to lose weight. Well, yeah, but we need to figure out why you can't lose weight. Is it because of your diet? And it's usually a combination of all the things they're doing. They're eating bad foods. They're not following a good dietary program. They're not exercising. They have poor nutritional profile. They have a worn out pancreas. They may have a hypothalamus pituitary problem. There's lots of different reasons for you to not to lose weight. And then what happens with them is they run out and try to find the magic powder, potion, or pill, or they get on some really crazy weight loss program where they starve themselves, which then downregulates their metabolism, which when they start eating again, they gain more weight than they originally had. And then their metabolism slowed down because they messed it up because of their starvation diet. And now it makes it more difficult. And it just, they put themselves in this endless cycle of suffering and stuff, because they think that, they figured out, like when I have problems, guess what? I try to figure out myself, but guess what I do? I go to Dr. Stuber and I say, hey, Julie, this is what I'm dealing with, because what happens is, if I knew the answer, okay, then I wouldn't be dealing with it. Right. And again, I don't know everything. I don't never claim to know everything. And if any doctor who does, run as far away as you can, because you can't know everything. So, like with me, there's certain things that like I'm having some issues with, and I'm like, hey, Dr. Stuber, what's your ideas, and how would you assess it? And, this is what we're going to try. And this is my course of plan. Guess what? I'm going to listen to her course of plan to do what, to do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so as you look at the graphics, diabetes is a disease, but it's caused by lifestyle. Arthritis is, it's not just old age. It's, again, if you look at Royal Lee's stuff, you read a lot, arthritis, we call it an overcooked food disease. It has to do with your liver and all the things like that. Autoimmune, same thing. A lot of autoimmune disorders are started in the gut. And guess which the number one disruptor of the gut is? And these antibiotics, sugar, and processed foods. So these things disrupt the gut, cause leaky gut syndromes, all these other things, food allergies. And guess what? That starts to trigger the immune system. So then what happens? Later on, you develop autoimmune issues with there's tons of autoimmune disorders out there. So if you want to avoid those things, we look back to the gut, the diet, all those things. And then we do stuff to start to regulate the immune system back so it doesn't attack the person themselves.
Well, and, we're talking about all of these things that are lifetimes of choices that get us in this position, but then we want to go and have some doctor fix it in a visit or two.
And it doesn't work that way. Yeah. And then the other problem, we talking about insurance and stuff. Patients, if I said, my insurance doesn't, I want to go to my doctor because insurance or it's more affordable. And I said, first of all, it's not affordable care. It's not cheap care, because if it was cheap care, okay, how much money do you think it takes to build a hospital? Millions of dollars. How much money do you think it takes to run a hospital? Millions of dollars. How much, you're talking millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to run hospitals. Well, they have to generate those revenues. They have to generate that money. They don't generate it by you being healthy. And it comes to and I tell patients this all the time. When it comes to insurance, my car insurance doesn't pay for my oil changes. My car insurance doesn't pay for my tires. It doesn't pay for my gas. It doesn't pay for anything unless I'm actually in an accident.
So how come it always comes down to car analogies that are always when you hit home runs? I mean, you're always giving great information.
Well, I love cars and yeah, and people get it, when it comes to car, but again, back to my car. It's my responsibility.
Insurance doesn't pay for gas. Yeah.
It's my responsibility to keep my car running properly. And if it doesn't, it's kind of on me. And then guess what? And Miriam kind of experienced this. She bought a used car and she drove it off the lot and started having problems. And guess what? It's on her. They're trying to put it all on her. She's had it for about a week. But anyhow, the point of it is care is expensive when you go to the medical route. It's highly expensive. Yeah. Last I read a research article, and this is years ago, and I know it's even higher now, was a 50-to-1 ratio. So every dollar that you spend eating healthy, doing like, say, chiropractic care, naturopathic medicine, buying your supplements, things like that, eating healthy, stuff that doesn't even cost money, like walking, it doesn't cost you any money, some time. They lose at least $50. And I think the ratio is probably a lot higher now. Last time I looked at the thing, everybody's like, well, why does medical doctors badmouth chiropractors and blah, blah, blah? And I go, it's because of the money.
It costs them money.
Because it costs them money. I say, you take a chiropractic patient, the average chiropractic patient is about $2,000 a year. If with a back problem, again, this is a study that I read a couple of years ago, and it's gotten higher. With a back problem, it's about $25,000. It's a huge difference about amount of money that you're going to spend versus. And then the other thing with chiropractic care, you actually get better. With the medical care, guess what? That's the MRIs, the physical therapy, CAT scans.
And then you still have things to manage down the road.
Yeah. And then, of course, if they do the back surgery, then, within 3 to 5 years, you're going to have another back surgery, and then you're going to be in pain management, and you're going to be, just boom, 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 boom. And it just continues to go down the road with your health. And I call it, I tell a lot of patients when they're asking, like, oh, my doctor's running this test, and he's really trying to get down to the root cause of my problem. I go, no, he's not. I said, you have what we call GID. And he goes, GID. And I go, it's called good insurance disease. If you have good insurance and they run it, what they do is like, oh, wait a minute, that insurance will pay.
This will cover this.
And as a matter of fact, I have a lady who works at one of the big insurance companies, and she's way up in the management. And we laugh about it all the time. She goes, yeah, with our company, they'll approve like $10,000 worth of testing, not even think about it. 10,000. Boom. And so these doctors in the hospitals have found that out, and they go, wait a minute. Oh, let's test. And like what Julie said, next thing you know, you're 3 or 4 months down the road, and you've been tested to death, and nobody's actually done any type of treatment to help you, and your disease has gotten worse. And anyhow, it's frustrating, and
and that's why we get this information out, is to hopefully open some minds and get some people thinking about it, and taking a look at newlifenaturopathic.com, and even we talked about a couple of times during this episode, new-lifeweightloss.com. Those are some great options for you, because this team has put the work in to make it easier on you, and they are looking at making you a whole, healthy you, and not just managing symptoms and things like that. So we kind of crossed into here on the Cause is the Cure episode. We crossed back into preventative again, which I think it was Miriam that pointed out when we did that episode that there's a lot more to talk about when we talk about prevention. And so we did a little bit of that today. So that's a good one. And, it's hard to do because, as Dr. Stuber pointed out, we've been programmed to think a certain way. Dr. Tyndall even said, with that one graphic that showed, healthy and then sick, we've been programmed to think a certain way and spend our money a certain way when it comes to, quote, healthcare. And that's another mindset we're trying to shift around to. Does anybody have anything else they want to point out before we wrap this one up on the Cause is the Cure? Go ahead.
Yes. The other thing that again, there's a lot of quote gurus out there, like people that are promoting quote health or wellness, and they're in the gym and they have no body fat and they're like all buff and they have the right program for you, or a celebrity promoting, okay, this will make you healthy. And there's not a magic pill or a magic potion, and we have to deal in reality. Like I tell people that it's just not, you're just not going to attain that. It's just, they want to tell you a quick fix, but they just hit you with that fascination. Like, oh, that person's so pretty. They look so good. They're rich. They have a lot of subliminal messages there. So be educated and go to the right people. The people that know what's happening are us, people like us. There's natural doctors, there's educators, and you need to be aware of people that don't have the knowledge and the education to help you.
Well, I think this is a good place to bring back out one of our favorite graphics that we have used in our shows so far. Don't confuse your Google search with my training and experience. I was waiting for another time to break it out, and that was it right there. So I'm glad you brought that out. All right, folks. Well, we would love for you to spread the word and let people know about Pursuit of New Life. This podcast is about giving you information, and it is about allowing you to get a better holistic look at how you can prevent some of these things from happening and have a better lifestyle. Dr. Tyndall, were you raising your hand?
Yes, one more thing.
Go ahead.
I raised my finger. Yeah,
He raised his hand.
I raised my finger. If you're taught in Iowa, man, if you want to speak, raise your hand.
Yes.
So anyhow, just real quick, one of my, because people, the word's getting out and stuff. So I was just going to put this out here for a friend of mine. He's doing a radio show on Amazon. It's called Breakfast with Sage. And he invited me to be a guest speaker on there. So,
oh, great.
So it's going to be interesting. So about every 2 weeks for a while, until I get boring or whatever, he wants to have me come on and ask questions, and it'll be question and answer, be actually live. So people can call in and ask questions and stuff. But yeah, so it's getting out there, and we're starting to get invitations from other people to speak on their platform. So people are hearing the word. So
well, good. And a vehicle that they've heard the word from you is this podcast. So make sure that you're subscribing and sharing. And say again the name of the show for people to look for that you're going to be on.
It's Breakfast with Sage. It's on the Amazon radio.
Okay.
What do they call that? Give me just a second here.
All right. He's going to look it up. And I'm going to remind you to subscribe to this podcast, New Life Naturopathic on YouTube, and Pursuit of New Life on your favorite podcast platform. What was the platform?
It's AMP.
AMP. All right. AMP, Breakfast with Sage. That's going to be featuring Dr. Tyndall, our very own. And we encourage you to check that out, as you also each week check out this podcast, Pursuit of New Life. And we will see you next time right here on Pursuit of New Life.
All right.
Thanks, Quincy.
See, Quincy.
Thanks so much, Quincy.